reminded me of the wisdom boxes that we're looking at now, and every one of us has this wisdom kind of box. And today we would like to hear from the wisdom box called Sandy Novak. So Sandy has over 40 years of experience as a teacher and has been in private practice for 30 years, specializing in the treatment of individuals, couples, and families. Sandy is a founding faculty member of the Satir Global Network. She was given the Living Treasure Award for lifetime contribution to the Satir Model in 2009. She founded the Satir Institute of the Rockies, a Satir therapist training institute in Boulder, Colorado. Currently, Sandy is on the faculty of the Banmen Satir China Management Center, training counselors in China in the Satir model. And today, Sandy is going to present on a topic called From Coping to Congruence in the Age of Corona, which would be about the neuroscience of fear of the virus and how to calm our fears and return to a centered and congruent state. So welcome, Sandy. I think you need to unmute the wisdom box.
It took a couple of clicks. What a privilege it is for me to share with all of you. I'm so excited, and I'm also nervous because I look at this group and I know so many of you, and many of you have been my teachers, my trio mates, my students, my colleagues. We wear so many hats with each other, and it's a privilege to take this time to just share. I'm just going to play. I hope we can play together. I hope we can have some fun and make some new connections. What I'd like to do today is just take some pieces that you already know so well and maybe bring them together with some new possibilities, some ways maybe you haven't thought about congruence, maybe you have. And I want to thank Jean for her centering, because it was exactly where I'm going. And it's amazing how the universe works that way, that she set us up. Just notice where you are right now, having had that centering meditation. Just notice what's happening inside of you, being reminded of the incredible resources you have available to you at every moment in time. And when just be with yourself for a moment to feel that in your body. Because what we're going to look at today is that place, that state is congruence. And that state is what's needed to get us through trying times. So let's take a little journey together where we do some head stuff, and then we do some heart stuff and some body stuff to come back home, because it's really about coming to the home Virginia gave us. She gave us that home inside ourselves where we're connected to ourselves. So I prepared a little PowerPoint to give us the visual part of looking at things you already know and how they connect to each other. So let's see how technically savvy I can be. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint? Great. One of Satir's genius skills was her ability to track people's physiological states. When she was working with someone, she was right there with them, tracking, are they unsettled? Are they agitated? Are they aroused? And then as she worked with them, she noticed later that they were settled, they were calm, they were relaxed. And one of the ways she monitored whether she had accomplished her goal with a client was what was the state that they arrived in, their internal harmony. And today I'd like to call that congruence, that place of harmony inside ourselves. So today we've got this new science called neuroscience that explained scientifically what Satir knew intuitively. She knew this to be true without having the science to back her. So my hope is to help you increase your awareness of why you shift into a coping at times of stress like these, and what you can do to shift yourself consciously back to a more harmonious state through understanding the way our brains work, our own nervous system, and yeah, that stuff. This is a weird new experience I've never taught with PowerPoint online, so bear with me as I go, what am I doing? Here we go. Oh, it's not letting me scroll.
Try using the arrow buttons.
That's what I'm doing.
Oh.
Well, we might have, there's a little arrow down below. There we go. Thank you, Esther. Esther is so helpful. So when we're cruising along in life and everything's going along hunky-dory, Satir called it the status quo. We're in the best harmony we can be in for the moment in time, and living in balance, or the best balance we can muster for ourselves. And then the process of change begins because a foreign element shows up in our lives, as we're all contending with now in different ways and at different levels. We have this thing called a coronavirus, and it is a huge foreign element for the entire planet, and the entire planet is trying to figure out how to cope with that. So when that happens, we go from our old status quo through this process of change. Let's look at it today and look at how coping comes into that and how congruence can give us an alternative. So the foreign element arises, and what happens inside of all of us? It's a very natural human process. It's an animal process. It's a mammal process. We have three parts of our brain. We've got the reptilian brain, which is all about survival. The reptile brain makes survival its number one purpose. So when a foreign element hops into our lives, our reptilian brain wants to take over and go to whatever survival it can find. Then we also have the limbic brain, which is an emotional brain that all mammals share. And the limbic brain allows us to, I'll get to that in a minute. And we have the neocortex, which is the human brain. And it gives us these vast capacities that Jeannie was talking about, including language and logic and creativity and problem solving. But meanwhile, when a foreign element comes along, it co-opts that neocortex. And the limbic brain and the reptilian brain take over and take us backwards. So we've got the reptilian brain, we've also got the mammal brain, which allows us to bond, to feel love, and to protect and form attachments with our children. Uh-oh, my scrolling just quit working again. Oh, where is it? Human beings, we're capable of conscious loving. But at times of stress or a foreign element or a threat, we lose connection with that because the reptilian brain takes over. So that's three parts of the brain. The part that has so many people co-opted right now is part of that limbic brain, that emotional brain that mammals share, and that is the amygdala. It has a magnificent task, a magnificent job, which is to scan for threat. And when it sees a threat, a novel threat, it says, fear, 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 do something. and it takes over. And what we do is we tend to go backwards to things we know from childhood and how to survive. And we go into chaos. We lose track of that harmony. We lose track of the balance, and we're in a chaotic state. What most of us do is go to defenses that we learned in our childhood and that are usually very automatic. We all know Satir gave us such a gift in helping us identify those defenses. These are old defenses that we know so well. And so at a time like this, so many people are back to their family of origin, back to coping in old patterns that are so familiar, losing the ability to handle this challenge by using old strategies that cut themselves off from themselves and from others, and their defenses they learned in a young state. So they find themselves in their familiar survival coping. So what can we do? When the old way of coping gets too painful, we finally say, enough is enough. We finally say, I want to make a conscious choice to do something different, to do things my way, to do things a different way. So the gift of our Satir model is that we know what that choice is. And most of us have spent a lot of time working to create that different choice. When I catch myself in an old coping stance, can I shift my awareness back to myself? So what I'd like to invite you to do right now is go on a little journey with me, a meditation, and we'll build on what Jean did so beautifully earlier, to just look at the way our alternative, our choice at a time of stress. So if you would, again, let's just close your eyes and come back to yourself. As an alternative to coping on the outside, we can connect on the inside. And as you go inside, just breathe and notice your breath. And you might even invite your breath to change, to be slower, to be deeper. And invite your breath to relax your body and open your receptivity. And if you notice any tension in your body, you can breathe it out on an outgoing breath. And I invite you to go to a place inside yourself that you call by your name. Perhaps it's your wisdom box. Perhaps it's a hidden room deep inside, your sanctuary. It might be a favorite place in nature. And as you go there, just notice what happens inside. As you see the colors in that sanctuary, you hear the sounds, you smell the fragrances, you feel the air on your skin, you taste that air. And while you're there, connecting in this sacred place, invite yourself to have this rich time of connecting with yourself in order to nurture your relationship to you. And reminding yourself of the many gifts you have, that you are unique. There is no one else in this whole planet who's exactly like you. And as such, you deserve all the respect and consideration that you require. And you have so many resources inside. Just take a moment to name 5 resources of yours that you appreciate right now. 5 of your favorite resources. Maybe it's your humor, your quick wit, or your caring, or your sensitivity, or your outspokenness, or your kindness. Whatever they are, just be in touch with all the many resources you appreciate about yourself. And one of those resources is your ability to be the shepherd of your own process, to be in charge of your breathing, in charge of your body, in charge of yourself. That you can see yourself different from others, yet equal in value to all others on this planet. You are precious. You're a manifestation of life force. You're capable of being your own choice maker, of being in charge of you, of loving you. And notice what's happening in your body now as you see you and your many resources. As you value you, as you treasure you, and perhaps old thoughts or beliefs or messages come up that say, I'm not good enough. If you hear them, acknowledge them and thank them for coming from an old place. But remind them they're from another time. They're from another place. And today, in this place of being in charge of yourself, you can also be in charge of the messages you give yourself. I love me. I value me. And when our hearts and our bodies and our minds are all in harmony, we send out a positive energy that attracts others' positive energy, and it softens the negative energy. We influence what happens with our positive, harmonious energy. So become aware that we are automatically a light in any darkness. When we are harmonious in what we think, what we feel, how we are, and how we love ourselves. And that light grows even brighter when we know absolutely that we are manifestations of life and pure in essence. So say goodbye to this sanctuary for now and promise to come back as often as you need to stay connected to yourself, first and foremost, and then connect with others. And when you're ready, come back into the room, this Zoom room, by opening your eyes. So welcome back. We'll have a chance to share later. But what I want to invite us to remember is that times of stress with a foreign element like COVID, we can go to our old coping patterns, or we can remember our gift of congruence, which starts with connecting and valuing ourselves. So I'd like to invite you to meet in small groups and share a couple of, do some sharing about a couple of questions. Share your experience of connecting to yourself over this past month, or however long you've been quarantining. For the Chinese people, it's been almost 3 months. What spoke to you the most today? And how can you use this practice of connection and sharing to start challenging in the interactions in your family? So we're going to break into groups of 3 or 4. Esther's going to do that for us and have some time to share about your own congruent experience, how you've been using it and how you want to use it.